So how we connect and build in-person relationships was absolutely unended. Whether it was walking the halls at our clients and in our own offices, attending conferences or events, everything shut down. We had to quickly embrace a new way of connecting, building relationships, digitally, virtually, and rethinking how we sell and market. We invested in new tools and platforms and in training our teams and people. As we move forward post-COVID, many of these new ways of connecting and developing business relationships will really stick with us.
So the pandemic has changed much about how I work. Look, like most of my Deloitte colleagues, I was visiting 2 to 3 cities a week, one-on-one breakfast meetings, all-day meetings, dinner meetings. Look, when I look back on it now, the days were logistically challenging, but really energizing because there were lots of personal interactions. And I was doing crazy things with my schedule, 6 a.m. flights, 9 p.m. flights to balance and make sure that I was home with my family. And honestly, when I think back on it, I wonder how I kept up with it all these years. But in the virtual world, how it's changed how I work, one thing that's changed for me is how we work as teams. We're not convening in in-person groups anymore. And I found that more regular individual touch points are critical throughout all of this virtual teaming. We're working with Zoom in groups, but the individual touch points after the Zooms are over are super important to finalize the output, to hear points of view that didn't resonate during the group meeting, or things that were hard to contextualize in the group virtual setting. It also keeps the individual relationships really healthy and alive. It also allows me to express my gratitude for their continued teamwork in a different virtual environment. So the productivity is different, but I think it's still very productive in how we're working as teams in the virtual world.
The pandemic has changed a lot about the way that I personally work. One of the things I found most refreshing, and actually perhaps most surprising, is how much the whole notion of video interaction, which was something I never really did, before the pandemic, has actually, obviously it's become a routine. In my view, it's actually improved the relationships I have with our teams that I work with and with the clients that I serve. I find that the ability to have an impromptu conversation is much easier. I find we get to the point of a lot of our conversations much more quickly. And I actually find that I've gotten to know some of my team a little bit better through these short video bursts as opposed to the more formal interactions we may have had prior to the pandemic.
COVID-19 has certainly brought to light many different challenges. What I'm specifically focused on is balancing short-term operational efficiency with long-term focus on growth. I balance that every day and really thread that needle with our network and our clients on a daily basis. Specifically, I'm focused on investing in the future, whether that's investing in our talent, creating new business models to take to market, or creating new solutions to enter new markets.
The pandemic has shifted the way that I work with my teams on a daily basis. I'm accustomed to working with them one-on-one or in groups in in-person settings. So as a result, we've had to be more deliberate, particularly the way that we brainstorm and work on activities together via Zoom, or how we have impromptu sessions, just to mimic the way that we would just discover new things together around the water cooler, so to speak.
The pandemic's changed the way we work in many fundamental ways, and there haven't been a lot of great things about the pandemic, but the acceleration of the future of work in a much more individual, person-centric way has been one of them. And what do I mean by that? I mean, when, how, where an individual works becomes more about their choice than, in our case, Deloitte's choice. And when you create that flexibility in work rhythms, you unlock so many possibilities. The talent experience improves, your ability to attract and retain a much more diverse population of employees goes up because they feel the empowerment in their work rhythm. And I believe we are going to press fast forward on that trend in how we work when we come out of the pandemic, and frankly, we'll set new paradigms for the entire profession.
The pandemic's blurring of our personal and professional lives has taught me that to have a really committed workforce, we must understand the drivers of their physical, mental, and financial well-being. And while we can't solve every person's problems, we should lean in where we can. For example, providing additional support to caregivers and more flexibility around work schedules.